It's a crisp autumn morning in Chicago, the kind where the wind whispers through the towering buildings downtown and carries the faint scent of fallen leaves all the way to the outskirts. Over at Riverside Academy, a gritty urban high school tucked in the heart of the city's South Side, students shuffle through the gates like ghosts in the fog. The air hums with the usual chaos: lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking on linoleum floors, and snippets of laughter mixing with the low rumble of buses pulling away. To the untrained eye, it's just another day in the grind of public education, where kids from all walks of life chase dreams amid crumbling budgets and overcrowded classrooms. But beneath that ordinary facade, a storm is brewing, one that will expose the raw underbelly of power, privilege, and the unbreakable spirit that rises from the ashes of hardship. Riverside isn't some elite private school. It's a microcosm of America's inequalities, where funding shortages mean outdated textbooks and overworked staff, while a handful of wealthy families donate just enough to keep their kids above the fray. Think about those real-life stories you've heard: schools in cities like Chicago or Detroit, where systemic racism and economic divides create invisible walls. Kids from low-income neighborhoods, many of them black or brown, fight twice as hard for half the opportunities, while the privileged few glide through on their parents' coattails. The cause: deep-rooted issues like redlining and unequal school funding, leading to consequences that echo for generations: higher dropout rates, limited college access, and a cycle of poverty that's tough to break. Compare it to those shiny suburban districts where resources flow like water. Smaller classes, advanced tech, no questions asked. The difference: it's not just money, it's the mindset it breeds. Entitlement festers in the gaps, turning some students into kings of their own little empires, blind to the struggles around them. And in the midst of this battlefield stands Ms. Elena Thompson, the new biology teacher who's already turning heads. In her late 30s, with a gaze that could cut through steel and a posture so straight it commands respect without a word, she glides into her classroom like she owns the space. Not the bubbly type fresh out of grad school, nor the jaded veteran counting down to retirement. Elena carries an aura of quiet authority, her long sleeves hiding scars that tell tales she keeps locked away. Students whisper about her: too strict, too intense, too something else. Is she divorced? Hiding from a rough past? Or maybe she's just one of those rare souls who've seen the world beyond these walls. But here's where it gets intriguing. Those rumors aren't just idle gossip. They've got roots in truth, the kind that could shatter assumptions and flip the script on who's really in control. You see, in places like Riverside Common, mistakes abound. Administrators often turn a blind eye to brewing tensions, fearing backlash from influential parents. Think of those scandals where donor kids get slaps on the wrist for serious offenses, like the real cases in affluent Chicago suburbs, where bullying escalates unchecked. The result: a toxic environment where the vulnerable suffer in silence, eroding trust and morale. But what if ignoring those signs leads to an explosion? What if underestimating someone like Elena, judging her by her calm exterior, proves to be the biggest blunder of all? It's a lesson we all need. Appearances deceive, and true strength often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to unleash. As the bell rings and students file into her biology lab, the air thick with the earthy smell of preserved specimens and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights, Elena begins her lesson on survival of the fittest. Little do they know this Darwinian principle is about to play out in real time. But to understand the storm that's coming, we have to peel back the layers on the people at its center: the bully who's risen unchecked, and the teacher whose shadows run deeper than anyone imagines. Now let's pull back the curtain on the souls at the heart of this tale, the ones whose paths are about to collide in ways that will shake Riverside Academy to its core. First, meet Tyler Grant, the 17-year-old storm cloud who struts through those hallways like he's the emperor of his own kingdom. Tall, with that cocky swagger and a perpetual smirk that screams untouchable, Tyler's the son of a real estate tycoon who's built half of Chicago's skyline. We're talking penthouses, luxury cars, and a family name that opens doors faster than a key card. But here's the ugly truth. Tyler's rise to king of the school didn't come from hard work or charm. It sprouted from a silver spoon life where rules bend like wet noodles. Remember those real scandals rocking Chicago's elite circles? Affluent teens dodging consequences for vandalism, or worse because daddy's checkbook silences the noise. Yeah, that's Tyler's world. Absentee parents too busy closing deals to teach empathy, coupled with a society that worships wealth like a golden calf, brew a toxic cocktail of entitlement. The cause? A vacuum of real guidance where money replaces morals. The fallout? Eroded compassion, turning kids like Tyler into emotional bulldozers who crush anyone in their path without a second thought. It's a cycle we've seen too often, privilege inflating egos until they pop, leaving wreckage behind. But flip the coin, and you find Ms. Elena Thompson, a woman whose shadows run deeper than the Chicago River at midnight. Enlisting in the Marines straight out of high school to claw her way out of poverty's grip, Elena faced the fire of overseas deployments, gritty battles in dusty lands that tested her body and soul. Think of those veteran stories that make headlines: Black service members returning home with invisible wounds like PTSD, navigating a world that demands they snap back into civilian life. Elena's discipline, honed in boot camp and foxholes, stands in stark contrast to Tyler's chaos, where he lashes out impulsively. She moves with calculated precision, her scars forging an unbreakable armor. Yet here's a common pitfall for the vulnerable among us: suppressing that trauma to blend in, stuffing it down like an overstuffed suitcase until the latch gives way. It backfires, turning quiet strength into a ticking bomb, especially for Black women who've battled racism on top of everything else. We compare her path to those real analogies: vets teaching in inner-city schools, channeling their resilience into mentoring the next generation, but often at personal cost. And just when you think you've got her figured out as the stoic educator, here's the twist that hooks you deeper. One quiet afternoon in class, as Elena lectures on cellular resilience, how cells adapt to survive harsh environments, she pauses, her voice softening. "I've seen it firsthand," she says, rolling up a sleeve just enough to reveal a faded tattoo of crossed rifles, a Marine insignia half hidden under fabric. The room goes still. Students exchange glances, sensing there's more to her than lesson plans. Was it a slip or a deliberate breadcrumb? That subtle reveal plants seeds of mystery, making you wonder, what battles has she truly fought, and how will they surface when pushed? This clash of worlds teaches us something profound. Privilege blinds you to the storms others weather, but adversity, it forges an unbreakable resolve that can turn the tide. If you're out there grinding through your own hardships, maybe as a Black listener who's risen from the ashes of betrayal or bias, let this fuel you. Your scars aren't weaknesses, they're your secret weapons. As these two forces orbit each other in the biology lab, the air starts to crackle with unspoken warnings, building a tension that's impossible to ignore. It's in those daily clashes where the real drama simmers, waiting to boil over. With the pieces in place, Tyler's unchecked arrogance clashing against Elena's hidden steel, the biology lab becomes a pressure cooker simmering over weeks that feel like an eternity. Picture it. Fluorescent lights flickering overhead, the sharp tang of formaldehyde hanging in the air as students hunch over trays of frog dissections, slicing through layers to reveal the inner workings of life. It's a perfect metaphor, isn't it? Peeling back the skin to expose the flaws beneath the very human ones that drive us to hurt or heal. But in Elena's class, those dissections aren't just about amphibians. They're a mirror to the daily skirmishes unfolding right there on the linoleum floor. It starts small, subtle jabs that Tyler lobs like grenades, testing the waters. "Hey, Ms. Thompson," he'd sneer during a lesson on ecosystems, his voice dripping with that fake innocence. "Bully's perfect. You sure you didn't just Google this stuff? Or is this from one of those diversity hire manuals?" The racial undertones hit like whispers in the wind, but they're there, echoing the grim stats from U.S. Department of Education reports, where minority educators, especially Black women, face harassment at rates double that of their peers. Tyler's clique snickers from the back row, egged on by peer pressure and the glow of social media feeds that glorify toxic takedowns, turning individual egos into a mob mentality. The root cause. That deadly mix of insecurity masked as bravado, amplified by likes and retweets, leading to groupthink where empathy gets buried alive. The consequences ripple out. Classroom morale crumbles like dry soil, students withdrawing into their shells, afraid to speak up or engage, their grades slipping as the vibe turns poisonous. Compare this to teachers who bow out early, quitting in droves, as we've seen in waves of resignations across urban districts, overwhelmed by the grind. They pack up rather than push back. Unlike those who stand tall in historical strikes, like the Chicago Teachers Union battles that demanded respect and resources. Elena. She chooses the latter path, but here's the common mistake that hooks us all. In her bid to maintain professionalism, she brushes off the early taunts with a cool nod or a redirect. Focus on the specimen. Tyler, dissect the facts, not the room. It's a noble tactic, but it risks escalation, letting those microaggressions fester like untreated wounds, building pressure until something snaps. And snap it almost does in a near miss that twists the knife of suspense. One rainy afternoon, as the class wraps up a unit on chemical reactions, Tyler accidentally fiddles with a Bunsen burner valve while Elena's back is turned, gas hissing out unchecked. The room fills with a faint, acrid warning. Students cough, eyes watering, until Elena spins around, her military-honed instincts kicking in. She shuts it down in seconds, her voice steady but laced with thunder. Safety isn't optional here. Tyler plays it off with a shrug, but his eyes flicker with something new. Unease, maybe even a spark of fear. Was it sabotage? A prank gone wrong? Or a deliberate probe to see how far he could push? That moment hangs like a storm cloud, foreshadowing the deluge to come, leaving you breathless, wondering if Elena's patience is a shield or a setup for something explosive. This brewing tension drives home a vital lesson. Silence isn't always strength. Nipping those microaggressions in the bud can prevent the hurricane, especially if you've walked through slights at work, in your community, or beyond. It empowers you, reminding us that standing firm early isn't confrontation. It's self-preservation, a spark for those who've endured and emerged stronger. As the days tick by and the lab's air grows thicker with unspoken challenges, the inevitable breaking point looms, ready to shatter the fragile peace in a blaze of raw confrontation. The biology lab at Riverside Academy, already a cauldron of tension, is about to ignite. It's a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind where Chicago's clouds seem to press down on your soul, and the air inside smells of damp coats and formaldehyde-soaked frogs pinned to dissection trays. The class is deep into a lesson on survival instincts, scalpels glinting under flickering lights as students slice through tissue. But the real survival game is playing out between two forces. Tyler Grant, the untouchable bully, drunk on his own power, and Ms. Elena Thompson, the black teacher, whose calm exterior hides a warrior's fire. Weeks of taunts, sneers about her credentials, veiled racial jabs have built to this moment, and the room feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the spark. Tyler's at the back, slouched against his lab station, his smirk sharper than the scalpel in his hand. He's fresh off a failed test, his ego bruised, and you can see it in his eyes, the need to reclaim control. "Yo, Ms. Thompson," he calls out loud enough to turn heads. "You really think you're running this show? My dad could buy this school and fire you tomorrow." The words land like a slap, echoing stats from urban schools where wealthy parents wield influence like a sledgehammer, intimidating educators into silence. The cause: a system that lets money trump accountability, with consequences that embolden kids like Tyler to cross lines others wouldn't dare. Compare that to teachers in underfunded districts who face daily disrespect, yet persevere, like those in real-life Chicago school battles who've stood firm against pressure. Elena's response is a masterclass in restraint. Your dad might buy buildings, Tyler, but in here, respect is earned, not bought. Her voice is steady, her eyes locked on his, a challenge he can't ignore. But pride is a poison, and Tyler's been drinking it for years. His friends egg him on their Snickers like gasoline on a fire. Common mistake. underestimating the quiet ones, assuming composure equals weakness. He stands slamming his textbook shut, the sound cutting through the room like a gunshot. "You don't tell me what to do," he snaps, stepping closer, his voice a blade. The air tightens, students freezing mid-cut, their scalpels hovering. Then, in a reckless surge of defiance, Tyler crosses a line that shatters everything. He lunges, his hand clamping around Elena's throat, shoving her back against the lab counter. Glass beakers rattle a tray, clatters to the floor, and gasps ripple through the class like a shockwave. For a heartbeat, time stops, Tyler's face twisted in smug triumph as if he's won. But here's the twist that flips the script. Elena's eyes don't widen in fear. They narrow sharp as a blade, and in that split second the mask of the reserve teacher falls away. Her military training years of drills, combat in deserts where survival was no metaphor, surges to life like a long-dormant volcano. Her hands snap up, seizing Tyler's wrist with a grip like iron, twisting it in a move so precise it's almost surgical. His smirk vanishes, replaced by a flash of panic as she strikes his elbow, bending it against its will. A strangled yelp escapes him, his knees buckling. In one fluid motion she spins behind him, locking his arm behind his back and slamming him face down onto the counter with a thud that echoes like thunder. The class is a statue gallery, mouths agape, phones fumbling in trembling hands. Elena leans close, her voice a low, deadly whisper. "You have no idea what battles I've fought. This isn't just self-defense. It's a revelation." Real stories echo here. Black women educators like those in viral clips from urban schools using strength to reclaim power from aggressors. The cause of Tyler's downfall. Overconfidence from years of impunity, assuming no one would dare challenge him. The consequence, instant humiliation, his illusion of control shattered in front of his peers. Compare this to unarmed victims who suffer lasting trauma versus those trained to respond, turning vulnerability into victory. The lesson burns bright. Preparation meets opportunity. Inner strength can flip the script in the blink of an eye. For anyone who's felt cornered, especially Black listeners who've faced bias or betrayal, this is your anthem. Your battles forge a power no one can take away. As Elena releases Tyler, his shaky apology hanging in the air like smoke, the lab falls silent, every eye on the woman who just rewrote the rules. But the storm isn't over. The shockwaves of this moment are about to ripple far beyond these walls, shaking the school and the souls within it. The biology lab at Riverside Academy is frozen in the aftermath, a battlefield where the dust hasn't settled. Beakers lie scattered, a frog dissection tray teeters on the edge of a counter, and the air is thick with stunned silence broken only by the faint hum of the ventilation system. Tyler Grant, the once untouchable bully, slumps against the lab bench, clutching his arm, his face pale and his bravado shattered like glass. His shaky, "I'm sorry," hangs in the air like smoke forced out under the iron grip of Ms. Elena Thompson, who stands tall, adjusting her sleeve with the calm of a warrior after a duel. Her whispered warning, "You have no idea what battles I've fought," still echoes in every student's mind, their wide eyes darting between her and Tyler, who's never looked smaller. The classroom feels like a stage where the curtain's just been yanked back, revealing a truth no one saw coming. The students are statues, their hands still gripping scalpels or phones too shocked to move. This isn't just a teacher defending herself, it's a seismic shift in the school's unspoken hierarchy. Think of those viral moments, clips from urban schools where teachers face down chaos, like the Black educator in Baltimore who disarmed a student with words alone, or the Chicago teacher who subdued a fight with sheer presence. The cause of this moment, Tyler's unchecked power, fueled by a system where wealth silences consequences, met its match in Elena's disciplined strength. The fallout. A classroom of kids witnessing the fall of a king, their whispers already spreading like wildfire through Riverside's halls. Compare this to schools where incidents get swept under the rug, parents with clout pulling strings, like in real cases where donor families hush up scandals to save face. But here the bystander effect. A common mistake where fear or apathy keeps witnesses silent holds sway with no one daring to intervene as Elena took control. Then comes the twist that flips the script again. A soft ping breaks the silence. A student in the back, trembling fingers still clutching her phone, has recorded the entire clash. The video, shaky but clear, captures Tyler's lunge, Elena's lightning-fast defense, and his humiliated apology. It's already uploading to social media, a digital grenade ready to explode beyond the lab's walls. This isn't just a classroom incident anymore, it's a spark that could ignite the whole school, maybe the city. The power dynamic shifts. Elena, the underestimated black teacher, now holds a narrative that can't be buried by Tyler's father's money. It's a moment that screams to anyone who's been silenced or betrayed. Your truth once shared becomes unstoppable. But the shockwaves don't stop at the lab door. Whispers turn to hallway buzz, students texting furiously, the video racking up views before the bell even rings. Tyler's friends, once his loyal courts, slink away, their faces etched with fear. Elena dismisses the class with a simple "pack up. We're done." Her voice is steady, but her eyes hold a storm, years of battles from war zones to systemic bias flickering beneath her calm. The students shuffle out, casting nervous glances, some with awe, others with guilt for staying silent. For black listeners who've faced racism or powerlessness, this hits home. It's the moment you stand tall, reclaiming your space, no matter the odds. The lesson here is raw and real. One act of courage can rewrite the rules, rippling through a community like a stone in a pond. It's not just about Elena's victory. It's about the spark it ignites in others to stand up, speak out, and shift the tide. If you've ever been cornered by a boss, a bully, or a system, this is your reminder. Your strength can change the game. But the story's far from over. The video's out there now, and the ripples are about to become a tidal wave, reshaping lives, reputations, and the very soul of Riverside Academy in ways no one could predict. The video of Tyler Grant's downfall spreads like wildfire through Riverside Academy, a digital blaze that leaps from phones to news feeds, igniting Chicago's South Side. By Friday morning, the clip, shaky footage of a bully humbled by Ms. Elena Thompson's lightning-fast defense has thousands of views, comments pouring in like rain. She's a hero. He got what he deserved. The hallways buzz with a mix of awe and unease, students whispering as if the walls themselves might spill secrets. But the shockwaves don't just rattle lockers. They're about to reshape lives, reputations, and the very soul of this school. Elena, the black teacher who flipped the script, stands at the center of a storm. She didn't ask for her Marine-honed resilience, now under a spotlight she never sought. The aftermath unfolds over weeks, each day, peeling back layers of truth and consequence. Elena faces a school investigation, the kind that often buries teachers under bureaucracy. Think of real cases like the black educators in urban districts who've been scapegoated after defending themselves, their stories buried in headlines about school violence. The cause: a system skewed to protect the privileged, where wealthy parents like Tyler's father, a real estate mogul, lean on influence to twist narratives. The consequence: teachers like Elena risk their careers even when in the right. Compare this to supportive schools where staff are backed with counseling and transparency versus places like Riverside where fear of lawsuits stifles justice. A common mistake bites hard here. Elena's initial silence about her military past, meant to protect her privacy, leaves her vulnerable to scrutiny as colleagues and parents question her excessive force. It's a trap. So many fall into hiding scars to seem normal, only to have them weaponized later. But Elena's no stranger to battles. Her Marine training, grit forged in deserts and barracks, grounds her as she faces the school board, her voice steady, her eyes unyielding. The investigation clears her, and whispers of her service leak out, painting her not just as a teacher, but a veteran who's stared down worse than boardroom glares. Social media amplifies her story, with local news picking it up. Think of those viral teacher tales like the vet in Atlanta who mentored kids after serving. Her resilience shines a beacon for Black listeners who've fought systemic bias, reminding them that enduring hardship builds a strength no one can strip away. Then the first twist, Tyler's father tries to douse the flames with money, offering a hefty donation to resolve the incident quietly, a move straight out of real-life playbooks where wealth buys silence. But the video's reach makes cover-ups impossible. Parents and community activists rally demanding accountability. Tyler faces suspension, mandatory counseling, and community service, his once shiny status tarnished. It's a humbling fall, but here's where redemption glimmers. In counseling, Tyler begins to unravel his own anger, hinting at a path to change, unlike bullies who double down, trapped in cycles of defiance we've seen in countless school reports. The second twist hits deeper, tugging at the heart. Elena, despite the chaos, notices a shy Black student, Maya, lingering after class. Maya's been invisible, bullied quietly by Tyler's clique, her grades slipping under the weight of isolation. Elena starts mentoring her, sharing stories of her own struggles, poverty, racism, war, and how she rose above. It's a quiet act of passing the torch, like those real-life veteran teachers who transform lives in underfunded schools. This connection speaks to anyone who's felt unseen. Your pain matters, and someone out there sees you. The lesson here is profound. Scars don't just mark you. They become stories that inspire others to rise. For those who've been betrayed or beaten down, this is your call. Your struggles fuel a purpose bigger than yourself, lighting the way for others. Elena's courage doesn't just save her. It plants seeds of change rippling through Maya, the school, and beyond. But the story's final chapter looms, where these ripples weave into a tapestry of lessons and legacies, tying together the threads of respect, resilience, and renewal that will echo long after the video fades. The ripples from that fateful Thursday in Riverside Academy's biology lab don't just fade, they weave into a tapestry that binds the school, the city, and every soul touched by the story of Ms. Elena Thompson and Tyler Grant. Months have passed, but the echoes linger. Hallways, once ruled by fear, now hum with a cautious hope, as if the air itself carries lessons too big to ignore. This isn't just about one teacher's triumph or one bully's fall. It's about the eternal truths that rise from the ashes of conflict. Truths that resonate with anyone who's ever fought to be seen, to be heard, to be whole. If you're driving through the night, working late, or winding down before bed, let this final chapter sink deep, because it's for you, especially if you've carried scars from battles no one else could see. Elena's story becomes a beacon not just at Riverside but across Chicago. Her Marine past, once a guarded secret, now fuels headlines and community forums, like those real-life tales of Black veterans like the teacher in Atlanta who turned her service into a lifeline for kids. Her resilience, forged through poverty, racism, and war, proves that strength isn't loud. It's steady, unyielding, like a river carving stone. The cause of her victory: discipline and survival instincts honed under pressure most can't imagine. The consequence: a school reevaluating its soul, with students like Maya, the shy girl Elena mentored, now blooming her grades, climbing her voice found. Compare this to schools where systemic bias festers, silencing the vulnerable, versus those rare places where courage sparks reform, like the Chicago teacher strikes that demanded equity. A common mistake haunts us here, dismissing the quiet warriors among us, assuming their silence means surrender. Elena teaches us otherwise. Her scars are stories, her battles a blueprint for rising above. Tyler's path, meanwhile, takes a quieter turn. Stripped of his untouchable status, he trudges through counseling and community service, his arrogance chipped away. It's not a fairy tale ending. Some bullies never change, trapped in cycles of defiance we've seen in school reports, but there's a glimmer of hope. In a real-world parallel, think of programs like restorative justice in urban schools, where kids confront their wrongs and sometimes find redemption. Tyler's still learning, his future uncertain, but the lesson sticks. No amount of money can shield you from accountability forever. Then comes the first twist, a moment that ties the heartstrings tight. Years later at a school assembly, honoring teachers. A young man steps forward, Tyler, now in his 20s, quieter, humbler. He approaches Elena, his voice low but clear, and thanks her. "You showed me what strength really is," he says, his words a bridge over a chasm of pain. The crowd hushes, some wiping tears, as the boy who once tried to break her now stands as proof that change, though slow, is possible. It's a scene that hits home for anyone who's longed for closure after betrayal, a reminder that even the hardest hearts can soften. The second twist seals the story's power. Maya, inspired by Elena, announces she's applying to a STEM scholarship, her eyes bright with a dream she once thought impossible. Elena's mentorship, her stories of surviving war and bias, lit a fire in Maya, echoing real-life mentors who uplift Black youth against the odds. For listeners who've felt invisible or beaten down, this is your spark. Your pain can fuel someone else's rise, turning wounds into wisdom. The eternal lesson here is clear. True power isn't bought or inherited. It's earned through trials, through standing tall when the world tries to knock you down. Respect grows from resilience, and renewal comes from sharing your story. Think of civil rights icons like Rosa Parks or modern heroes like Stacey Abrams, ordinary people whose strength rewrote history. If you're out there carrying the weight of racism, betrayal, or struggle, know this. Your scars are your strength, and they can light the way for others. As Riverside Academy heals its halls a little brighter, Elena keeps teaching, her presence a quiet revolution. And for you listening, as you drive, work, or drift toward sleep, let her story be your fuel. You're stronger than you know, and your fight matters. If this story moved you, if you've ever stood up to a bully, risen above pain, or found strength in your scars, drop your story in the comments below. Where are you tuning in from? Chicago, Atlanta, or somewhere else? Hit that like button if you believe respect is earned, not bought, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind you of your own power. Ring that bell so you never miss a tale of resilience. Together, let's keep these stories alive, sparking hope for everyone fighting their own battles.